Hey, Peter.
Hey.
It's just another Manic Monday.
You know what I'm saying? This is how we do it. 7 steps, 7 steps.
Wish it were Sunday.
Hump day.
I'm Adam Maness.
And I'm Peter
And
Martin.
you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Daily jazz advice coming at you.
I can't control the volume of my voice.
Well, that's what post-production is for.
Just making it harder on Andrew. Sometimes I feel like it's my job to make it hard on Andrew, and I feel bad about that.
Well, we've tried before, and we've not been able to trip him up, so.
Yeah, that's true. Well, there have been a couple times, though, where things have slipped through.
Oh, have they? Some curse words?
Yeah, a whole bunch of...
Okay.
There's some things.
Okay.
Yeah, Andrew, no one's infallible here.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Today we're talking about 7-step syllabus to becoming a functioning jazz musician. What the hell does that mean?
Well, this is from a question from one of our longtime Open Studio members. So normally we might not put together something so organized as this. But I'll just this was the question that came in from Otieno via Facebook. If you were to create a chart of progression in terms of things to learn, like a syllabus, from just learning jazz to being a functional jazz musician, what would it be?
Yeah, and we haven't done that.
Well, we kind of have
We kinda have.
courses, but we don't have time in 12 minutes to go through all of our piano courses. But he's really asking about a jazz musician, so we wanted to make this agnostic by instrument as much as we could.
And we kind of just made a list of things to prioritize, I would
Yeah.
say, as opposed to like do this, then do that, because that is literally the courses we make here at OpenStudioJazz.com.
But we do kind of have them. I think these are a nice little order that we got them in.
Agreed.
Too. It
Agreed.
will work. I mean, you're going to need to be learning about it, and I think thinking about all these concepts as you're going through. It's not like you finish one and then you move on. They're sort of building upon one another. But I think if you go in this general order and use this as more like kind of a guidelines and sort of like a big scale map
Totally.
as you're going, and then you can kind of get in and get more granular with each of them. How's that sound?
So that's great. Now we have 7. You won't believe what number 5 is, but what's
we won't believe what number 1 is.
what is number 1?
Listen.
Oh,
that we will
shocker.
believe. Yeah, so number 1, we got 7 steps here. Number 1 is listen, because you have to do it first. You have to do it early, often, and you have to overdo it.
Yeah.
You have to, we cannot stress this enough, so we do stress it enough. But the idea is that we're seeing all the different ways that we can apply active listening to our development as artists, as musicians, as jazz players, as improvisers. There's always there should never be a chance of how should I approach this? It should be listen. It's like you take a bat. Every time you think about doing something that doesn't involve listening, somebody hits you over the head with it. It says, listen, listen, listen. It should be that much a part of your routine. Now, what are we listening to? Recordings, other people that you're playing with, yourself.
Yeah.
Silence. What's wrong with listening to a little bit of silence?
Nothing wrong with that.
But
Your surroundings.
Your surroundings. But the whole thing is, it's like if you're a chef, you're constantly tasting. I think. I don't know. You know more about this because your wife's a chef. You're kind of a chef, right?
You have to be tasting.
You have to. You ABT, right? Don't
always
they?
Good chefs are always tasting.
Always be tasting. So that because that is how their artistry is manifested by how the food tastes. And there's smell and there's ambience and all these things, but the core element of it. So for music, it's how it sounds. So we're constantly listening and we're developing as listeners. And the only way you develop that is by actually doing it.
And to lean into that chef metaphor a little bit more, but it's exactly what you talked about with how musicians, we're listening to other musicians, we're listening to recordings, we're listening to ourselves that we record, we're listening to what surrounds us. Like chefs will, they're always going to other restaurants, they're tasting, their mother's cooking, they're tasting their own cooking a bunch as they're cooking. Yeah. But that's all part of it.
Yeah.
So
but think about this too. Sorry, just to dovetail that last thing. They're tasting and we're going to listen. They're going to taste, but they're doing it differently than we taste. Like when we're eating, we're like socializing. Oh, this tastes good.
Yeah.
No, they're like, what is the balance of this? What is this missing? What is this? And we have to learn to listen in that way. Very active, very pro level, not pedestrian level.
Agreed.
Okay.
Number 2 is swing. Now, swing is one of the foundational principles of jazz, and it's something that you need to listen for. These are one of the things we're actively listening for. And what is it? Well, that's a great question that nobody knows the answer to, but you know it when you hear it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's a language that, unlike, say, harmonic elements of jazz or melodic content of jazz, swing you can break down in a notated way, but it's hard to actually notate the way that some people swing.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that's better felt than it is read or any experience any other way. You have to listen to a lot of swinging musicians and digest, internalize, remember, be able to draw up, have your own arsenal of rhythmic vocabulary to draw from. That's the only way it works.
Yeah, and I mean, it gives you confidence.
For sure.
You know, you have to know this, but it's such an essential element to being able to play and understand and interact in this music that it's just something that we're constantly putting a focus on. Now, I would just say that swing, too, I don't see that just as tang, tang, ta, tang,
No.
as a swing beat. There's a lot of different grooves that exist within this music, some of which haven't even been invented or played yet. But swing is more of like an attitude with, like, towards groove, I would say, that we bring as jazz players.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's swing in all kinds of music, in reggae and bluegrass and all sorts of stuff that to me qualifies as a swinging musician. You know what I mean? So that's what you should be listening for.
Yeah, and totally foundational, which I think you said right at the beginning. Very important that we lay this as that foundation and constantly revisit and maintain it.
Another foundational element that's very specific to jazz is number 3.
Blues.
That's right.
Yeah, and so this is, similar to swing in that it's probably for us has a much, and I think should have a much broader definition than just like ba-na-na-na-na, I'm playing the blues, da-na-na-na, which is pretty good though.
I liked it, actually. I was feeling it.
So it's not just the so-called typical what somebody would think of as blues, but it's really that blues sensibility. It's that blues foundation that this music is built upon, that almost all like modern American music actually is built upon rock and roll and R&B,
absolutely
gospel,
true.
all these different things.
So true.
So like understanding the blues, having a deep understanding of the blues influences, the blues connotations, all these different kind of things is so important. Learning the different types of blues, learning how to navigate blues, learning blues inflections to put in your playing is such an important part, to becoming a functional jazz musician. It's essential. All these things are essential, but blues is foundational and essential and mandatory.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 4, this is one I put on that I think is actually really crucial to becoming a complete musician, and especially as you progress, is learning the roles of the instruments that you're playing with.
Yeah.
Learning the role primarily of your instrument. If you're a pianist, learning what that means.
Leader.
What is typically, that's right. Yeah. Getting paid a little bit more. I was just kidding to all my bass player and drummer friends out there. No, but knowing what your role is in the band, I think is very important so that at least from, that doesn't mean that you always have to stay within that role.
No,
traditionally,
the pianist's role is to correct everybody else, but that's not the only thing we can do. Right?
But once you're comfortable knowing your role, what your role is, if that's piano or bass or whatever, to learn about as much about other instruments you're playing with, to go get some drums, go get a bass if you can. You can find some of these instruments fairly cheaply.
Steal a set. Come on.
Borrow whatever and understand
borrow, steal.
The physics, understand the limitations, understand the strengths of each of these instruments that you're working with, understand what a trumpet player is going through, understand how they make sound and why you probably can't write a bunch of long tones for 6 minutes straight. I learned that the hard way.
Ooh, hello.
But this I think
trumpet players die in that experiment.
A couple did. I think this is actually a undervalued element of learning about music.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, what we've been talking about earlier has really been foundational, listen, number 1, 2, swing, 3, blues. This is a little bit more specific, but this can go a long way. This is more like tactical in terms of really being a functional jazz musician. For sure. And the different ways that we actually function and operate as jazz players.
Because
that
jazz
can really help you.
Because jazz is spontaneous composition.
And social. And it's a social music.
Well, yeah, but because it's think about yourself as a composer, and a composer has to know the orchestra. Right. Has to know how these instruments function. So that's part of it.
Good. Number 5, repertoire. Now I put on this. Now we're getting into more like, in terms of like the continuum of this. You've got your foundations. You're kind of learning what's happening, but you need to learn how to apply this and how you're going to fit in, playing with other players, because it is a social music. So we're learning about the roles of the instruments, where we fit in with our particular instrument and the different possibilities, which are great for all instruments. But then what are we going to play? So it's like that foundational repertoire. This is the language and it's the language of how it's actually manifested. It's like the shared stories that we have in this music. So, we're learning these by listening, and of course, swing and blues are going to be a huge part of that repertoire. They're going to kind of typify in terms of the grooves and that blues foundation. So we'll have that. But learning those tunes, like we talked about the 17 tunes, you got to know it goes way beyond that. But working on that is where we can really start to develop as we get the improv skills and the other skills that we need through repertoire. We're not learning it in a vacuum.
Yeah, no, and repertoire can teach you those improv skills. If you learn a bunch of Charlie Parker heads, a bunch of Monk tunes, a bunch of cool tunes, a bunch of funk tunes, you're going to develop a knack for that language even deeper.
Yep.
Number 6 is to socialize, to get out there with other musicians, to listen and learn. I'm a huge proponent of this. For me, this is part of a trident, if you will, of learning anything.
Trident or a three-headed monster?
It doesn't matter. It's some kind of trifecta. But if you wanted to learn anything, whether it's jazz or French or tennis, but finding a community where you can learn things from people who are close to you in skill level and can be like, hey, you should try this or listen to this or do this with your hand, and just these little things that a community only can get you.
Yeah.
And just opportunities to play,
Yeah, and look, if you're a pianist, could you in theory never talk to anyone or play with anyone and become a functional jazz pianist? Yeah, probably.
Could you be a functional human? Probably not.
Probably not. But it's so much more fun and so much more interesting, and your artistry and your story can be discovered, I think, so much quicker and easier, if at all, through interaction with others.
Totally agree.
This is a social music. Art is social. Like and so when you open yourself up to that and say, okay, I'm going to get out and learn from other musicians and interact, and it gets you out of your thing of like, I want to do this, I'm this, I'm me.
Yeah.
And into this space that's super exciting and interesting. And it's just like learning anything. It's like if you're a tennis player, you can play against the wall and you can learn the strokes. You can watch YouTube videos or have a teacher or whatever. But then once you start playing with people, humans, not just machines,
it's totally different.
It's totally different. Then you start to really learn.
That's true.
And it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. We're supposed to be having fun, right?
Ideally.
With jazz?
Ideally.
Okay.
What's number 7?
Number 7. Oh, this is our last one. I'm sad, man. This is fun. Yeah. I feel like we're fully. It's like you bring up a child and then they're grown. What do you do with them? You can't wait for them to get out the house, and then once they're grown, you want to keep them there. Number 7 is to gig, to play, to do it, like to be the thing that you've been training to be. Don't wait until you get a certificate or we tell you it's allowed. Like all these things. There is a chronology, as we said, but this is something that you're always doing. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Like be what you're saying you want to be. A functional jazz musician. So you have to wake up at a certain point and say, I'm a functional jazz musician. And it's generally going to be earlier than you're going to want or feel comfortable. But that's going to be that last step of your progression and your the manifestation of your artistry and story to be able to come out.
Yeah, you got to play as much as possible from as early as possible, because there's just no getting around the fact that you're going to have to fail a lot in front of people before you get better.
Yeah.
Right? We all have. That's what we did, as kids, you and I. But that's what you do. And there's no substitute for it. You can't replicate it in the practice room. It's just part of it. You have to get up there. You have to play like 100 bad solos before you have a great solo.
That's right.
You have to write bad tunes before you write good tunes. There's just no getting out of that one.
There's none. And if you start to embrace the journey look, it's never fun to sound bad, but it can be fun to like surprise yourself. And I think we all have the ability to do that even when we're in our formative developmental stages, which we're really always in. It's just a matter of what part of it you are. But I think that as you start to be able to enjoy the process of playing, and that's why like number 6, socialize, play with other musicians that are better than you and get out with them, then it's fun. It's just like playing tennis. Even if you're not very good, try to find somebody that'll tolerate you, that's better than you. Their game's probably going to be knocked down because they're playing with you, but it's great for you because you get to kind of rise to the occasion. And always remember that the music is there to help all of us rise. Like that's the real, boat that bring the water, the tide that pulls up all the boats.
Sorry, that was right.
And even higher.
It's rising.
Yeah, it's rising.
Yeah.
I like it.
Sorry.
So yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Thank you, Otieno.
Yeah, thank you. Longtime member, always, has asked questions for the last several years. Really
thoughtful
and intelligent questions. Really appreciate. Love you. And We are sponsored. Okay, I'm not going to do as sloppy of a segue as yesterday because you laughed. Was that yesterday?
2 days ago.
2 days ago, man.
That was hilarious.
Man, you had trouble. Like you had some tears coming.
I mean,
Tears
we
of
were
joy?
talking about such a heavy subject, and it was such a abrupt segue into a sales pitch that I just really stuck. It turned my head around, buddy. It was
Well, today's
great,
gonna be a
though.
little easier because we're functional jazz musicians now. So it makes sense that we're sponsored by Open Studio, the home of much better than even just functioning professional jazz musicians. We are jazz lessons from jazz legends. Did you know that?
Would you mind say we're functioning jazzaholics?
We are functioning jazzaholics. Exactly. We love jazz here, and we love to help others, discover ways to grow in their musicianship. That's really what we're all about. And we're at an all new platform. It's a very exciting time. I mean, for me personally, and for the whole team, for all of us together, to be able to present this great new home. OpenStudioJazz.com
Yes.
is the place to go. And we have You'll Hear It Premium, which is really just, still taking off nicely. We got a bunch of charter members already in the mix. We thank you guys for that. If you want to jump on that charter bandwidth and you like to save money. If you don't like to save money, don't worry about it. Wait till next week.
Yeah.
But if you like to save money, jump on this soon because this is limited time offer, charter membership, $5 a month. I mean, that is, what did you say the other day? It was less than your cappuccino.
So I go to Blueprint almost every morning
Yeah.
for a cappuccino.
What is that, a $7 cappuccino?
It's a $5.50 cappuccino.
Yeah.
I mean, it is spectacularly delicious.
Yeah.
And I don't feel bad about it.
Well, You'll Hear a Premium is spectacularly delicious, I might say. So you shouldn't feel bad about that either.
Okay.
And it's going to get you bonus episodes. We've already got a couple queued up there, a couple already on the site, available, access to the archive. So if you ever want to binge listen to our early episodes, 100 or so or more, I guess, are only available this way because you can't get them on the regular feed. The Facebook group, which is available. This is the easiest way to get into our secret private Facebook group. It's the only way to get in there, except for, all access pass or whatever. We got a bunch of things coming, Q&As exclusive, some behind the scenes content we're going to do.
Speak pipes.
Speak pipes. This is the only way to leave the speak pipe. Henceforth, you get a nice discount on You'll Hear It swag. So you can get your t-shirts. We're looking at some coffee mugs. I thought coffee mugs would be fun.
I think I would love a coffee
Somebody
mug.
asked for a coffee mug. We're going to do that.
Can it be a good coffee mug, though? Can it not be a crappy one?
I mean, how are our shirts?
Our shirts
Premium.
are quality.
It's called You'll Hear It Premium. It's not called You'll Hear It Crappy.
Maybe
Okay?
we should have this is You'll Hear It Crappy. No.
Yeah, no.
We should do an offer. We should offer one where we pay people.
Right,
And
for a
it's
crappy
really
experience.
crappy,
That's
yeah.
right, yeah.
All right.
So anyway, join us there. You can go to you'llhearit.com or Open Studio Jazz, either one, to get on that. And we hope everybody has a great Monday. We love you.
You'll hear it.